Opening a high-yield savings account is better than ever today with the high interest rates they offer. And this is a re-upload because my last video I did a mistake on calculating the APY, so I'm doing it right this time. Now I've opened up a bunch of bank accounts and high-yield savings accounts because there's so many deals that go with them as well. So I'm going to go over some of my favorites and the overall winner that I'm planning to use until they decide to lower their interest rates. There's some very unexpected ones, some you might have never heard of. So I hope this will be helpful to you. And yeah, let's get started. What are the actual best that's there? So the ones I currently use, and I think are some of the best that I would recommend for pretty much anybody, starts with Sofi. So Sofi, I opened it up a couple months ago, and a bunch of these I've tested out for the first time a couple months. A few of them I've had for years. Sofi had an opening sign-up bonus. When I first opened it up back in around August last year, it did pay close to 5% APY in interest, or annual percentage yield. And since then, they have lowered it. So you do kind of have to be careful with these accounts where they could change the interest rate at pretty much any time, but it's still pretty competitive. And when opening these bank accounts, definitely look for the FDIC insured at the bottom. If you don't know about them or have never heard of them, definitely research them, Google their reviews, see their reviews and score on Better Business Bureau as well. But most banks, if they're a trusted bank, will have this FDIC insured up to $250,000, which is the normal amount. So Sofi has a really easy to use app, and they also come with a budgeting app as well in there. I find that it's kind of limited, so I actually use the free personal Empower app instead to manage my budget and keep track of expenses, but they have that available for you, so you could link in external accounts as well. With Sofi, let's say you have a balance of $20,000 for the whole month. You could make on average $63 per month with that 3.8% APY. Also, I just learned this, but the interest that you get is based on what balance you have every single day of that month. So if you just put in $20,000 a few days before the end of the month, don't expect that $60 interest. And the way I calculate that is a couple different ways. The official way is from Investopedia. You could look here. So some of the downfalls of Sofi is that they do require a direct deposit to get that higher interest rate. And if you don't have a direct deposit, then you are left with a smaller interest rate of just 1% APY in your savings and a 0.5% APY in your checking. So you need a direct deposit of $1,000 or more every month. The next bank I tested out was Empower Personal Cash, which advertises a similar rate as Sofi currently at 3.75% APY. If you have a $20,000 balance the whole month, you could expect on average $62.50 in interest on that balance. I actually really like the tools Empower provides, such as our budgeting tool, which I've used to replace Mint. Another positive about Empower Personal Cash is that they don't require any minimums or any direct deposits to get that higher interest rate. I so far have not had issues with banking with them. They are kind of different from a checking and savings account. They are a cash account, so a little bit more limitations with them. You don't get a debit card. You could only withdraw and deposit funds electronically. And this is another bank where when I opened it a couple months ago, the interest was closer to 5%, but now they've since lowered it down to 3.75. The third bank that I tested out is Openbank. And this one, they have the highest interest advertised out of the three at 4.4% APY. And I tested this out with a $20,000 balance as well. And it actually showed that I did receive about that amount for the month of March 2025. So I received $73.65 on the balance of $20,000. So that works out the APY calculation pretty much to a T. So no problems there. And it looks like there hasn't been a cap so far. So I've been able to put $20,000. I'm going to test putting more. Of course, they are FDIC insured as well. And Openbank is actually owned by Santander Bank. And I've used Santander Bank before, and they usually have really great rates or high interest that they've given. And I've never had any problem with using Santander Bank. Even here, I'm based in the US. This company is based in Spain. I've always received great service and without a hitch. However, they do also quickly change interest rates quite frequently, so you just want to watch out for that. This one is a great bank account though, because you don't have to have any direct deposit. There's no minimum, and it looks like there's no cap on the APY. Moving on to the next bank is LMCU, or Lake Michigan Credit Union, specifically their 3% APY Max Checking account. I've actually been using this checking account for the past couple years because they were the only bank I could really find that had a consistent 3% APY all this time, and they haven't lowered it or raised it. And so this one I've been using to house pretty much my emergency savings. You also have a limit of only $15,000 balance that could earn that high yield savings account. After $15,000, you'll earn something like less than 1% of interest. I think the biggest positive is that they've had a consistent rate of APY interest for so many years. There's no minimum balance required, no monthly fees, and they do have debit card that you could use that they send you, and you could get reimbursed through ATMs. I haven't used the ATM reimbursement feature myself because I always keep my Capital One bank account handy for any ATM cash withdrawals. Now on to the negatives. You do need to have a couple things that are required. You do need to have a direct deposit. You need to have a minimum of 10 posted debit or credit card purchases. So this can be online or in person, but it has to be 10 different transactions. And you need a minimum of 4 logins to the online or mobile banking, and you need to be enrolled in e-statements. Number 2, with making the minimum of 10 posted debit credit card purchases every month was starting to get pretty cumbersome for me because I never use my debit card. Personally, I always use my credit card to make transactions for the points, and I pay it off every single month. But yeah, it was hard for me to keep up with those 10 every month. However, the enrolled e-statements was pretty straightforward, and also the amount of logins every month was pretty easy to do as well. This is FDIC insured, and even though they're a credit union based in the Lake Michigan area, me being outside of that area in totally different states, I was still able to open this account, and it's an account that I possibly might go back to if the interest rates go low again for the other banks, because this bank has always been so consistent and great customer service as well. Okay, this last bank many might not have heard about, and it might throw you for a loop. So it's actually Redneck Bank. Yes, that's the name. This is the site. It's a real bank. I forgot how I found out about this. I think I was Googling high interest checking accounts or savings accounts, and I actually have been using them for years on and off, and they're quite a fun bank. But yes, they're real. They have a horse on there. And fun fact, if you do sign up with this bank, you get a bright red debit card with a horse's head on it, so it's quite fun. And they also have really high interest rate at 4.5%. I think when I opened up an account with them a couple years back, it was about 3% interest rate, which is also another really high interest rate compared to banks that were having low interest rates at that time. And it was also consistent with the returns I got. I have to say their customer service is amazing. They're one of those companies where if you call their number, you'll get to talk to a real person right away. And they've always been super helpful and super nice. And so I don't have this bank account currently. Downside is that you only can make that percentage up to a certain amount, I believe, last I checked. And also, you need to have 10 transactions on the actual debit card. So I don't think online transactions work. You have to swipe the debit card in person and swipe it 10 times per month. And that is quite cumbersome for myself. And so I don't know if it's worth it in my mind to have that requirement and have to do that 10 times physically. So what's the best from all these 5 bank accounts that I've tested? And I also recommend all of them. I've had great experiences with all of them. Well, the number one that I'm going to pretty much be moving all my savings to at this time outside of investments is Openbank. Not only has high interest, but is true to their interest, doesn't require any minimum transactions, minimum account balance, or minimum deposits. For many people like me currently who lost their job and am unemployed, I don't get any direct deposits, so it's hard to meet that minimum requirement. Openbank is the most flexible, actually gives the highest interest from what I've tested so far. I trust them because I've used Santander Bank, which they are part of, in the past, and so I've always had good experiences with them as well. With banks like this, you do have to keep in mind that getting actual cash out of ATMs might be a struggle sometimes, so I always keep my Capital One bank to the side for billing and taking cash out if I ever need it. But for emergency funds and also for any expenses that I think I'll need in a year, keeping cash in a high yield savings account like Openbank is going to be my savings method for now on. And then anything saved above that, I'm gonna try to save in the mutual funds. So hope this helped, and thanks for watching.